I'm CK. I need another rack for my main studio, so I decided not to build one this time. I looked on Sweetwater and picked up one of the Behringer 19-inch racks that fits into my regular studio racks, which have my other sound modules and so on in them. So let's take a look at it. I've already taken it out of the box, so you don't get the full unboxing experience. Sorry about that, but I unboxed it before I thought about recording it. So here's what you get. You get the rack with captive nuts. You have a power supply. You have a power supply feeding that power supply, a power cable, 2 multi-connector ribbon cables for powering your units, and a quick start guide. And let's look at the power supply that came with. I actually decided to buy this unit because it was about $109 US with the power supply, and that seemed pretty good. So let me swing over, and so as you can see, it's Behringer branded. The only question I really have is, who did Behringer copy this from? Because they copy everything. On-off switch, minus 12 volt LED, plus 12 volt LED, plus 5 volt LED. Now, interestingly, it's 13 volts DC at approximately 3,000 milliamps. Okay, so it's interesting that it takes DC. Many power supplies that I've used are AC and then converted to DC. Let's look at the back, the reverse side of it. So as you can see, 2 ribbon cable connectors or power connectors, which seems a bit much for an 84 HP rack. And then the power supply itself looks kinda, it's not beefy, let me put it that way. The capacitors are small, and they're only 25 volt, which for the power this thing it purports to produce, that seems low. And of course the small capacitors means there's not much current voltage buffering. You'll get surges when you turn things on and so on. So that's interesting. The other, again, the 3,000 milliamps is a lot for an 84 HP board. Let's look at the other parts. And again, 13 volts is an odd voltage to decide on. But here's the power supply. And it says its capacity is 13 volts at 3,000 milliamps, or 3 amps, 39 watts. And it's big, as you can see. What I'm thinking about doing is I'm thinking about trying it with this adapter instead. This is 12 volts DC at 2 amps and substantially smaller. And for an 18 or 84 HP, I don't expect to draw more than 2,000 milliamps anyway. So now let's take a look at the ribbon connector. I mean, not much to see there. Now, of course, since these are tapped off, it's a fine ribbon connector, or ribbon cable. But since these are capping off along the way, you're going to start losing, when you get to the tail end of this daisy chain, you're going to be losing a lot of voltage. So just for fun, let me grab a module and put it in. This is a 4MS quad pingable LFO I built the other day. The build video's not up yet, but it will be. Now, first thing I determined, because the product page didn't list this. I've asked them to update it. Let's see, I'm going to do it this way. First I'm going to slide that nut all the way down and that nut all the way down. And then I'm going to use my little knurly to get there. Now I'll slide this nut back. The first thing I checked when I got this, because the product page doesn't say this, and I've asked them to update it, is what size screws the nuts, the captive nuts are, and they are in fact M3s, so get that's metric 3 size, so get metric knurlies, metric 3 knurlies, or M3 screws or fasteners, whatever you like to use in your rack. So it's easy enough. The nuts move just fine in their channel. So I'm going to turn off the camera so I can get the power over to it, because I have to do some fiddling to do that. And I'm going to connect this power cable, and I'm not going to use this. I'm going to go directly to the power supply for this. Back in a second. Alright, we're going to start with it disconnected. I'm running the power supply itself is plugged into my Wattmeter power outlet. So let's take a look. It's not drawing any watts. 6 kilowatt hour, I mean 0.6 kilowatt hours in idle, which is fine. That's not a big deal. Why is this not moving now? There we go. Now I'll plug it in and see if we get any passive. No, there doesn't seem to be any drain. There's no change there. Now when I turn on the power supply without anything plugged in, we've got 3 LEDs lit up telling us we've got power to all the rails necessary. Still not showing any particular current. Now I'm going to turn it back off and plug in this module. Okay, let me double check to see that we're still on camera. Now we'll power it up. All the lights are working, and we're showing some power being used. Let's see what we got here. 2.6 watts at 0.049 amps, so that's really good. Yeah, that's fine. Let's turn some things on. I'm going to turn on all these LFOs. I don't think it'll change things too much, but it's good to see. Nope, didn't change anything at all. So, it's working. Seems to be fine. The next thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to turn the cameras off briefly, is I'm going to try that other power supply with this. Okay, we're on the 12-volt power supply with about with 2 amps, 2000 millivolts, and I think it will power it. It should. Sure looks that way. Let's see what we're doing. 0.049 amps, which is about 1 milliamp higher than the previous one, 26 watts. So the smaller factor, when I'm looking at the wattage that it's consuming, the smaller form factor power supply, which I got from Amazon sometime or other, I'll post a link to the product page. Sure looks like it's going to be able to support a full 84 HP rack. So that's bench testing. Now we'll put it in the studio. Now I've got it mounted to one of the racks in my studio. As you can see, the holes line up perfectly. I haven't done these yet because I don't know whether this is the final position. The power supply hanging off the front is kind of annoying because that's going to have to go around or through, or actually it's just going to have to go around. I don't like that much, but I'm not going to fuss with that for $109. It's fine. So it's a fine addition. The build quality is pretty good, except for the power supply, which I don't believe is going to live up to its capability. I think it's a fine unit and would be a good addition to your studio for holding all your Eurorack modules. Thanks for watching.